The Misfit Earthlings. In a dingy community college classroom, a motley crew of underachieving students sat half listening to a droning lecture. There was Zach, a goofy slacker more interested in cracking jokes than opening books. Beside him, Trish filed her nails, wondering if she could get away with skipping tomorrow's quiz to go shopping. In the back, bleary-eyed Hero battled his arch-nemesis, Morning, having gamed online into the wee hours yet again. And doodling in her notebook, May escaped into yet another sci-fi fantasy, imagining herself anywhere but stuck at this school. Unbeknownst to them, a bizarre clerical error, and perhaps a dash of cosmic irony, was about to send this band of misfits on the academic adventure of a lifetime. Thousands of light years away on the massive space station known as Universitas Prima, admission decisions were being finalized by the illustrious Galactic Academy. Established to educate the best and brightest from across the known universe, the Academy was a glimmering beacon of knowledge and prestige. As the towering crystalline alien known as Dean Zilon reviewed the list of accepted candidates, he paused, his faceted eyes narrowing at an odd entry. Earth. While not the most technologically advanced, the humans had been granted a token scholarship spot at the behest of the Academy's diversity initiative. But instead of the usual overachieving applicants, the roster showed a most peculiar assortment of names. With an almost amused trill, the dean waved a translucent appendage, stamping the list for approval anyway. Back on Earth, the community college admin office was in a flurry over the cryptic facts they'd received, informing them that a group of their students had been selected for an elite intergalactic study program. Before they could make sense of it, a shimmering portal opened in the main quad. Mai was the first to investigate, curiosity overcoming caution. Peering through the otherworldly gateway, she gasped at the view of a sprawling space station glittering beyond. Zach wandered over with a grin. Far out. Mai. What's this? A teleporter to the Comic-Con of your dreams. In a daze, May explained about the mysterious scholarship. Together, they gathered the rest. Hero and Trish were skeptical, but the allure of ditching classes was too great to resist. After some debate, and a few one small step for man jokes from Zach, the gang linked hands and stepped through the portal, spacebound. In a flash, the Earthlings materialized in a cavernous hangar, stumbling into an alien world beyond their wildest imaginings. Strange ships zipped past like shooting stars amidst spiraling architecture that defied human geometry. Whoa, they gasped collectively. Welcome, Earthlings, came a resonant voice. The students turned to see a being that looked like a cross between a crystal sculpture and a giant insect. I am Dean Zilon. You've been chosen to join the Galactic Academy, the most esteemed educational institution in the known universe. The humans shared befuddled looks. Hero raised his hand. I think there's been a mistake. Your deanship, we're not exactly the cream of the crop, if you know what I mean. Zilon tilted his angular head. Nonetheless, you are the representatives Earth has sent. We expect you to rise to the occasion. He regarded them for a long, uncomfortable moment. No matter how far you have to rise. As the dean led the humans into the heart of the space station, they couldn't shake the feeling that they were in over their heads. But ready or not, these misfit Earthlings were about to embark on the academic odyssey of a lifetime. Arrival at the Alien Academy. As Dean Zilon led the Earthlings through the gleaming corridors of Universitas Prima, the humans gawked like wide-eyed tourists. Everywhere they looked, wonders abounded. Holographic displays flashed with inscrutable alien texts and diagrams. Sleek robot drones whizzed by on unknown errands. And through the massive viewport windows, the starry expanse of deep space stretched to infinity. This place is like every sci-fi movie set come to life, Zach said, craning his neck to ogle a passing alien with tentacles for hair. And then some, agreed Mai. I don't even know how to process half of what I'm seeing. Hero, despite his nerves, couldn't help but geek out over the advanced tech. Dude, I think that's a quantum computing lab. And over there, is that an anti-grav track? Even jaded Trish looked starry-eyed as they entered a soaring atrium filled with exotic flora from a multitude of worlds. Bioluminescent ferns glowed in spiraling patterns, while hovering seed pods drifted on unseen currents. "It's like the universe's most extra terrarium," she marveled. At last, the dean brought them to a halt before a shimmering portal. "These will be your quarters for the duration of your stay. The domiciles have been adjusted to suit your species' physiological needs." However, Zilon cast a doubtful look over the ragtag bunch. "I expect acclimating to the intellectual rigors of the academy will prove more challenging for your kind. Prepare yourselves." With that, he ushered the Earthlings through the portal into a suite of rooms that were at once alien and strangely familiar. The walls pulsed with ambient light, and the furniture looked like it had been grown rather than built. But there were also touches of home. Squishy beanbags, a mini fridge, a holo projector that resembled a flat-screen TV. "Well, this is pretty swanky," said Zach, bouncing onto a gel-like couch. "I could get used to space dorm life." May ran her fingers over the otherworldly controls, puzzling out the symbols. "We're not here on space vacation, Zach. We're going to have to keep up with crazy advanced alien classes. What if the physiological adjustments don't extend to our brains?" Trish rolled her eyes. "Please, we'll be fine. I mean, how hard can Xenolinguistics 101 or Astroengineering for Dummies really be?" Just then, a chime sounded, and a hologram materialized in the center of the common room. It was the dean, his multifaceted eyes swirling with colors that could only spell trouble. "Attention first-year Academy students. Orientation begins in one standard galactic hour. Attendance is mandatory. Do not be late." His gaze lingered pointedly on the humans before the hologram winked out. "Ooh, Alien Frosh Week, here we come." Zach rubbed his hands together. "Think they'll have space beer at the welcome mixer?" The others shared a look, a sinking feeling in the pits of their stomachs. Sure, this space school thing had sounded like a lark at first, an cosmic excuse to ditch the doldrums of community college. But now, staring down the barrel of an alien curriculum light years beyond their skill level, maybe this prestigious scholarship was more of a punishment than a prize. Too late to turn back now. The misfit Earthlings steeled themselves to blast off into the academic unknown. Little did they suspect just how bumpy this intergalactic education would get. Fish out of water. The orientation hall buzzed with a cacophony of alien tongues as life forms from across the galaxy mingled. Gelatinous blobs jiggled in conversation with insectoid creatures. Tentacled beings traded notes with haughty humanoids in ornate robes. And huddled in the midst of the extraterrestrial crowd, the Earthling scholarship students tried their best to look like they belonged. "I feel like a goldfish who accidentally got tossed into the shark tank," Hero muttered, eyeing a particularly toothy alien. "More like plankton," Trish said. "Everybody here looks super advanced. Even their clothes scream, 'I breathe quantum physics.'" She had a point. Many of the students showed off tech that put Earth's shiniest gizmos to shame. One gaggle of aliens chattered via holographic emojis that popped up around their heads. Another tapped at glowing wristbands, trading what looked like live star maps. "Come on, guys, we can't psyche ourselves out before classes even start," Zach said with a determined grin. "So what if they're ahead of the curve? This is our chance to level up. Fake it till you make it. Am I right?" May raised an eyebrow. "Pretty sure you actually need to study to make it here, Zach." But his enthusiasm was a tiny bit contagious, though I am curious to peek at their course catalog. Xenolinguistics, Astroengineering, Terraforming 101. It's like every sci-fi nerd's wildest dream. Just then, a hush rippled through the room as Dean Zilon took the podium. "Greetings, honored students," he began, his resonant voice subtly auto-tuned to each species' audio receptors. "Welcome to Universitas Prima, the shining apex of intergalactic academia. You have been selected from the best and brightest of your respective worlds to represent your kind at our venerable institution. Zelon paused, his multifaceted eyes swiveling to the awkwardly fidgeting Earthlings. Well, most of you, that is. Trish fought the urge to flip him off with a single-finger salute. The dean continued, clicking through a holographic presentation on the history and prestige of the Galactic Academy. The Earthlings struggled to keep up with the breakneck pace, the alien concepts flying over their heads. By the time Zelon concluded with a barrage of instructions on everything from quantum matriculation to the dizzying array of majors, the humans' heads were spinning. "I'm gonna need a space Advil," groaned Hero, "and a space tutor." The next morning, the misfit Earthlings stumbled zombie-like to their first classes after a restless night of tossing and turning on the gel beds. Even May's excitement had dimmed after a peek at the incomprehensible textbooks. Their schedules, auto-translated and beamed to their foreheads with discombobulating alien tech, directed them to different corners of the sprawling campus. Zach found himself adrift in advanced xenolinguistics, his human vocal cords mangling the guttural clicks and hisses of the alien languages. In astroengineering, Trish stared blankly at a schematic of what looked like an inverted black hole generator. Hero barely kept up in theoretical temporal mechanics, his gaming-honed reflexes at least allowing him to dodge the professor's laser pointer glare. And May, despite her usual quick wit, felt like the slowest kid in comparative xenoanthropology. By the time they regrouped for lunch in the cavernous dining hall, the Earthlings were a dejected bunch. Poking at the unidentifiable but strangely tasty morsels on their trays, they commiserated over their abysmal first day. "I'm pretty sure my terraforming prof thinks I'm the class dunce," Trish grumbled. "Every time I ask a question, his eye stalks droop like I'm physically painting him with my stupidity." Hero shook his head. "At least you're not getting labeled an evolutionary curiosity like me. I heard my temporal mechanics classmates betting on how long before my primitive primate brain glitches out." Across the room, raucous laughter erupted from a table of their alien peers. The humans watched as holograms of themselves stumbling through classes played above the group. Apparently, the Earthling Follies had become the hit viral vids of the Academy. A wave of homesickness hit Mai hard. Even community college was starting to look good. She pushed her tray away. Maybe this was a mistake, guys. I thought we'd get to explore strange new worlds, not be the daily punchline." Zach's usual upbeat facade was starting to crack. "You're not wrong. I mean, I love a challenge. But this is next level. We're like guppies in a shark tank, plankton in the whale pod, fish out of water, floundering." "Dude, enough with the terrible metaphors," snapped Hero. Just then, a shadow fell over their table. The Earthlings looked up to see Dean Zelon looming, his crystal angles refracting the light into uncomfortable prisms. "Ah, the diversity cohort," he said, a trill of condescension in his auto-tuned voice. "I've been monitoring your progress, or should I say, lack thereof." He swiped a long appendage, pulling up holograms of the humans' abysmal test scores and class rankings. Dead last on every metric, their stats blinked an angry red. This was just the first day," Mai protested weakly. Zelon's facets swirled, prismatic eyes narrowing. "Indeed, and at this rate, perhaps the last. I suggest you humans get your primitive gray matter in gear. The Galactic Academy has a reputation to uphold." He retracted the damning holograms with a dismissive flick. "Impress us, if you can." With that, the dean stalked away, leaving the Earthlings stewing in a soup of shame, frustration, and the sinking realization of how deep they were in over their heads. As the star chart of their academic future blinked dim, the misfit Earthlings wondered if they'd made a terrible mistake hitching a ride to the wrong end of the universe. Hidden talents emerge. Days turned into weeks as the misfit Earthlings struggled to keep their heads above the rising tide of alien academia. They pored over glitching translations of incomprehensible textbooks late into the artificial night. They stumbled through classes, always 2 steps behind their extraterrestrial peers. They bombed pop quizzes on topics like quantum chromodynamics and 4D hyperspatial geometry, their measly scores projected in humiliating holograms. Even Zach's gung-ho optimism was wearing thin. He'd taken to hiding out in the zero-G robo-dojo, tinkering with spare android parts to avoid his scanolinguistics homework. Hiro fell asleep in temporal mechanics so often, his classmates joked he was stuck in a time loop. Trish nearly caused a diplomatic incident when she accidentally insulted a tentacled professor's spawning planet. And Mai had become a fixture in the holostacks, desperately sifting through dense alien tomes for some glimmer of understanding. The Earthlings were reaching their breaking point, until one day, Zach burst into the common room, startling Hiro out of a black hole of an all-nighter. Guys, you're not gonna believe this. I think I just aced my xenolinguistics oral exam. Mai looked up from the holodesk, bleary-eyed. What? How? Well, you know how I've been messing around with the maintenance bots. I kind of started picking up on their binary beat speak, and it hit me. It's not so different from the click chirps of that Arcturan dialect we've been failing at. Trish blinked. Wait, you're saying you learned an alien language from robots? Zach shrugged, a grin splitting his face. I guess tinkering is my version of studying. Point is, I translated that oral exam like a boss. You should have seen the prof's eye stalks twitch. The Earthlings gaped as the implications sank in. Maybe they had been going about this space school thing all wrong. Maybe the key to surviving the alien curriculum wasn't to cram their human brains into extraterrestrial boxes, but to think outside the box entirely. Hiro was the next to stumble onto a hidden talent. Dozing off in temporal mechanics for the umpteenth time, he jolted awake to find the lecture had taken a turn for the practical. The professor was demonstrating how to navigate 4D space-time using a dizzying array of dials and holoprojectors. But to Hiro's sleep-deprived eyes, the swirling patterns clicked like the control scheme of his favorite VR game. In a daze, he volunteered to give the 4D sim a whirl. His classmates snickered, expecting the primitive Earthling to plunge them into a time paradox. But as Hiro's fingers flew over the holo controls, the mock starship zipped through warped space with uncanny skill. By the time he docked them smoothly back in real time, the snickers had turned to slack-jawed stares. How did you? Hiro shrugged, still a bit dazed. I dunno. It just felt natural. Like a game I've played a million times. The professor, looking equal parts impressed and disconcerted, warbled something about 7 simians before moving on. But Hiro couldn't wipe the grin off his face. For once, his gamer geekery had landed him in first place. Trish found her calling where she least expected it, terraforming 101. While the complex equations and quantum chemistry left her head spinning, she discovered she had a knack for the hands-on habitat design projects. Apparently, all those years of perfectionist room decor and DIY fashion had honed an eye for aesthetic functionality. Check it out, she crowed, proudly displaying her midterm project. A scale model of a post-singularity planet, complete with bioluminescent forests and floating bubble cities. I call it Neo-Versailles chic. Her professor, begrudgingly impressed, burbled that perhaps her frivolous human preoccupation with aesthetics had some practical value after all. Trish beamed, turning the backhanded compliment into a badge of honor. But it was Mai who truly blossomed in the alien academic environment. Her voracious appetite for sci-fi had prepared her mind for the wondrous possibilities of the universe. In comparative xenoanthropology, she devoured case studies on extraterrestrial cultures, drawing keen insights her classmates missed. It's like first contact scenarios, she explained to her baffled study group. You have to approach the unknown with an open mind. Look for common ground. Every species has some version of the hero's journey, the universal themes. Her professor took notice, praising her unique perspective. Soon, Mai was the go-to Earthling consultant for cross-cultural projects, bridging gaps with creativity and empathy. Slowly but surely, the tide began to turn for the misfit Earthlings. They stopped trying to fit the alien mold and started putting their own spin on things. Zach charmed his skenolinguistics class by translating Earth slam poetry. Hero aced temporal mechanics tests with video game-inspired shortcuts. Trish's Neo-Versailles aesthetic caught on, spawning a trend in terraformed fashion. And May became a rising star in the budding field of human-alien relations. By the end of the semester, the Earthlings were no longer the laughingstock of the Academy. Oh, sure, they were still light years behind their peers in some respects. But they'd carved out their own niches, gained a few extraterrestrial admirers. They'd even started to feel a little at home in this alien environment. But as they soon learned, life has a way of throwing cosmic curveballs just when you think you've got the hang of things. And for the misfit Earthlings, the biggest space school test was yet to come. An alien emergency. It started like any other day on Universitas Prima. The Earthlings drive themselves to morning classes, mainlining the alien equivalent of coffee. A bitter brew that Zach swore tasted like motor oil and enlightenment, but it got the job done. They muddled through lectures on esoteric topics, trading eye rolls and inside jokes via subtle gestures that wouldn't trip the prof's telepathy. But as the day wore on, a strange vibe percolated through the station. Whispered conversations cut short when the Earthlings drew near. Furtive glances from compound eyes and eye stalks. A tense buzz, like the hum of an energy shield on the brink of collapse. Is it just me, or is everybody acting weird today? Trish muttered as they regrouped for lunch. And I don't mean baseline alien weird. Hero frowned at his food. An unidentifiable mush that was supposed to be the latest in nutrient optimization. I dunno, I've had this hinky feeling all day. Like something's off. Just then, a holo alert blared through the dining hall, Dean Zillon's faceted face looming large. Attention, students and faculty of Universitas Prima. We are experiencing a level 5 emergency situation. Please remain calm and await further instructions. Repeat, remain calm. The transmission dissolved into static, the dean's final words swallowed by an ominous crackle. For a beat, the hall was silent. Then, pandemonium erupted. Alien students bolted for the exits, a stampede of tentacles and pseudopods. Profs barked orders that were lost in the cacophony of agitated trills, clicks, and hisses. The Earthlings huddled together, wide-eyed and utterly lost. What the hell is a level 5 emergency? Zach yelled over the din. A passing upperclassman, a amorphous blob of translucent goo, paused long enough to gurgle. Bad news, Earthies. Real bad. Then it was swept away by the tide of the crowd, leaving the humans staring at each other with mounting dread. Okay, don't panic, said May, her voice pitching high with the effort of following her own advice. I'm sure the faculty has this under control. We should just head back to the dorms and wait it out. No sooner had the words left her mouth than another burst of static crackled over the holo, resolving into the harried face of their terraforming professor. Attention, Earthling students. Your presence is urgently requested in the quantum terraforming lab. This is not a drill. The holo winked out, leaving a ringing silence. The Earthlings shared a look of pure, oh shit. Then Zach cracked a shaky grin. Well, you heard the blob. Guess we better haul ass before we cause an intergalactic incident. The quantum terraforming lab was in chaos. Holoscreens flashed angry red warnings, alarms blared, and a handful of frazzled-looking profs huddled around a pulsing central console. The Earthlings hesitated in the doorway, feeling like kids who'd stumbled into the grown-ups' meltdown. Their terraforming prof spotted them and waved them over, pseudopods quivering. Thank the Nexus you're here, Z burbled. We need your help. Trish blinked. Our help? No offense, Teach, but we're barely passing your class. What could we possibly? The prof cut her off with an impatient gurgle. No time to explain. Just look. Z swiped of pseudopod, pulling up a holo schematic of what appeared to be a planet in the throes of a multicolored seizure. Red tendrils of energy snaked across its surface, pulsing in an erratic rhythm. This is Xylox 17, A terraforming project on the brink of catastrophic failure, the prof said. The quantum resonance fields have fallen out of sync, causing a cascade of geotectonic instabilities. If we can't realign the fields in the next solar rotation, the planet will tear itself apart. The humans stared, uncomprehending. The prof made a noise like a wet sigh. In simple terms, bad planet go boom. We need Earthling brains to unboom it. Hero raised a hand. Prof. Not to state the obvious, but we're kinda the remedial kids here. Wouldn't the advanced terraforming students be more qualified to handle this? The prof's eye stalks drooped. They tried. But the quantum alignment requires a specific type of neural processing. A creativity, a flexible problem solving that the more advanced species have evolved beyond. May offered, catching on. The prof wobbled in the equivalent of a nod. Okay, let me get this straight, said Zach. You need us dumb Earthlings, because we're too primitive not to think outside the box. Another wobble nod. In blunt terms, yes. Your cognitive limitations are, in this case, an asset. Trish snorted. Wow. I think there was a compliment buried in there. Somewhere. But Maya was already stepping up to the console, eyes alight with that spark of imagination that had earned her top marks in xenoanthropology. Show us what you've tried so far, she said. We'll take a fresh look. And so, as the quantum clock ticked down, and the fate of an alien world hung in the balance, the misfit Earthlings dove into the fray, determined to prove their worth in this wildest of space school tests. Humans saved the day. The quantum terraforming lab buzzed with barely controlled chaos as the Earthlings pored over the holo-displays, trying to make sense of the terminally unstable planet. It's like trying to solve a Rubik's Cube blindfolded, Hero groaned, swiping through screens of pulsing energy grids and fluctuating equations, while juggling flaming chainsaws. May chewed her lip, brow furrowed in concentration. There's got to be a pattern we're missing. Some kind of resonance key. Zach, meanwhile, had commandeered a console and was tapping furiously, tongue poking out the side of his mouth. Trish leaned over his shoulder, squinting at the rapid-fire lines of code. Since when do you know quantum programming? She asked. I don't, Zach said, eyes never leaving the screen. But I figured, it's all just ones and zeros at the core, right? So I'm hacking it like I used to hack the school's grading system back home. Trish's jaw dropped. You what? But before Zach could elaborate on his checkered academic past, May let out a yelp of excitement. Guys, look at this. She swiped a hand, sending a holo model of Zylox 17 spinning into the center of the lab. See these energy pulses? They're not random. They're following a Fibonacci sequence. The other Earthlings stared blankly. May sighed. It's a mathematical pattern found all over nature on Earth, in seashells, hurricanes, galaxies. Understanding dawned on Hero's face. So you're saying this planet is glitching out, in a naturally occurring rhythm? May nodded vigorously. I think the terraforming AI got stuck on this pattern, and now it can't break the loop. But if we could introduce a new resonance frequency, we could kick it out of the rut. Trish finished, catching on. Like a cosmic Control-Alt-Delete. They set to work, the pieces falling into place with sudden clarity. May and Trish dove into the planetary holo model, isolating the Fibonacci pulse points. Hero dug into the terraforming eye's base code, searching for the stuck algorithm. And Zach, well, Zach kept right on, hacking, a manic glint in his eye. The minutes ticked by, the tension ratcheting up with each missed attempt, each fresh red alert from the unraveling planet. The terraforming profs hovered anxiously, offering the occasional helpful suggestion that earned withering glares from the focused Earthlings. Just as the quantum countdown neared the final minute, May slammed her palm against the console. That's it. I've got the new frequency. At the same instant, Hero crowed triumphantly. Booyah! Found the bugged algorithm. They high-fived, giddy with exhausted relief. Trish hurried to input the corrected variables, muttering under her breath, "Simon, you stupid space dirtball. Sink." But as the final seconds ticked away, the angry red pulses continued to strobe across Xylox 17's surface. The planet stubbornly refused to stabilize. The Earthlings watched in dawning horror, realizing their best efforts might not be enough. "No, no, no," Meg cried, hands flying across the controls. "It's not working. Why isn't it?" And that's when Zack, eyes wild and sweat-soaked hair plastered to his forehead, let out a primal whoop and slammed the execute command on his jury-rigged algorithm. For a heart-stopping moment, nothing happened. Then, a ripple of blue-green energy burst from Zack's console, racing across the holo-model of Xylox 17. The angry red pulses shivered, flickered, and sensed, settling into a steady, soothing rhythm like the heartbeat of a slumbering world. Xylox 17 hung in the center of the lab, peaceful and stable, quantum resonance fields humming in perfect harmony. There was a beat of stunned silence. Then the lab erupted into chaos of a different kind. The terraforming profs cheered, pseudopods quivering with relief. Hero and Trish tackled Zack in a giddy group hug, babbling incoherent congratulations. And May just stood there, staring at the serenely spinning planet, a slow grin spreading across her face. They'd done it. The misfit Earthlings, the academic underdogs, the cosmic jokes, had just saved an alien world through sheer creativity, determination, and a healthy dose of chaos energy. Dean Zillon burst into the lab, his faceted face a kaleidoscope of confusion and disbelief. What in the seven cosmic hells just happened? The terraforming prof practically vibrated with excitement. "The Earthlings did it, sir. They realigned the quantum fields and stabilized Xylox 17. Zillon's crystal brows drew together as he surveyed the jubilant humans, still riding the high of their improbable victory. But how? I thought you said this was an impossible task for their primitive minds." "Well, it seems their primitive minds were precisely what we needed," the prof said smugly. "They approached the problem from angles we never even considered, used unorthodox methods we would have dismissed out of hand." The dean blinked slowly, processing this information. "So you're saying, these Earthlings just outscienced the brightest minds in the galaxy, with the power of creativity and unpredictability?" Trish laughed, punchy with exhaustion and elation. "Yup. Turns out being too human has its perks." For a long moment, the dean just stared at them. Then, slowly, incredibly, he began to chuckle. A warbling, prismatic sound that built to a full-on belly laugh, echoing through the lab. "Well, I'll be a Quasar's uncle," he said, shaking his head. "It seems we underestimated you Earthlings. Perhaps there's more to your species than meets the eye." He swiveled to face the slack-jawed profs, his facets shimmering with mirth. "Take note, my esteemed colleagues. It appears we have much to learn from our primitive students." With that, he swept out of the lab, leaving a gaggle of flabbergasted faculty in his wake. The Earthlings just grinned at each other, basking in the glow of an impossible victory. "Dude," Hero said, a note of awe in his voice. "Did we just impress the unimpressible alien dean?" May laughed, giddy and disbelieving. "I think we did more than that. We just proved that humans have a place among the stars." Zack slung an arm around her shoulders, beaming. "Damn straight, chaos monkeys. 1, universe, 0. They dissolved into hysterical giggles, the tension of the last few hours finally bubbling over into pure, unadulterated joy. Because in that moment, they weren't just the misfit Earthlings anymore. They were the humans who saved an alien world, the underdogs who defied the odds and proved their worth on the galactic stage. They were space school legends, and the universe would never be the same. Of course, legends still have quantum physics homework, and Hero had a sinking feeling he'd forgotten to turn in that last problem set. But that was a tomorrow problem. For tonight, the humans of Universitas Prima were going to celebrate like the cosmic heroes they were. Because as a great earthling once said, all of us are in the gutter, but some of us are looking at the stars. And these misfit earthlings, they had just brought a little more chaos, a little more creativity, and a whole lot of human ingenuity to those stars. The end.